a BBC commission shared between comedy and music, and it's 5 standalone shows, each show a fantasy version of an existing format. So we've got The Apprentice, Wife Swap, Panorama, Question Time, and the South Bank Show.
I think it's really important to emphasise the feat of writing 5 new musicals in the space of 2 years and turning them, without a pilot, into 5 half-hour standalone films.
There was always a constant worry it might never happen, and that was also the constant provocation that it should.
I don't think there is anything of this type that's actually out there, a comedy series that is actually an opera. I think this is a first.
Kombat Opera is sort of an evolution of things we've been doing with Richard Thomas for many years.
I first started working with opera singers about 15 or 20 years ago, because they used to make me, I found them funny. I then met Laurie Nixonberg, who was in an avant-garde quartet in Edinburgh Festival, and she did some sort of really weird out there stuff.
Yeah, I'm an opera singer, classically trained. I do a hell of a lot of contemporary music, though, and there's I do a lot of weird shit. And
we then developed this thing called the opera device. So when we're doing gigs with Simon, if he was heckled, we'd wheel on the opera device and she'd just engage in this battle of abuse between the audience and her.
I'm on the blob, I'm on the blob, I'm on the blob, I'm on the blob, but you can take me up the shut pipe.
And they got bigger laughs than they deserved, in a way. And I thought, this is interesting.
And that was actually the origins of Jerry Springer the Opera.
My episode is Children of the Stones, and I have to say that when Richard Thomas approached me, it was my favourite episode. It's the one I really, really loved. It's basically the story of the acquisition of language. So it all starts off with these prehistoric men, cavemen, who have no language. So, of course, they're all going grunt, 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 grunt.
A-E-I-O-U, without them vowels you've got no sounds. A-E-I-O-U.
Grunt, 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 grunt.
I love the challenge.
The cast are wonderful. I mean, I know this sounds a bit show busy, but they are opera singers, but they're not opera singers who, are usually rather elderly and a bit podgy. These are opera singers, but they're, sort of real people as well.
In the casting sessions, we just would get opera singers coming in, and the ones who basically could keep it raining in their performances and do good television performances, we cast. But there were many who just, we did that sort of over-the-top stuff, who couldn't rein it in, no matter what you tried to do.
Grunt, grunt, grunt. The rehearsals were a great revelation, I have to say, because I'd seen Jerry Springer the Opera on stage, and I'd really been impressed by everybody in the performances, and I loved the show, which is why I was so keen to do these films.
It's been about the only audition ever where I couldn't get through it because I was laughing so hard, and I remember just going, God, you guys are sick. I just thought, this would be fantastic to do because of that reaction.
You guys are so fucked up. Rehearsals was absolutely like you've never seen. There's a couple of people here that don't read music. I'm one of those included. I'm going to add up to it now. I didn't say that in my casting. And basically we had a week to get each episode ready.
And they're so good at working together and coming up with things that it was a great joy to do them.
They are all uniquely talented, all of them as individuals, and all those singers, and together as an ensemble. I mean, they're artistes. They're fantastic. The way they have to prepare, and the preparation they put into it, and the love and care they put into it. That's why it sounds so good.
It's very, very hard for someone to step in and do something like this. I mean, I know John has struggled a little bit with it, and I remember the original guy who played Jerry in the West End, Michael Brandon, he struggled with it initially. It's very hard for someone to come in and do a speaking role when everyone else is singing at you.
To look at the script on paper, I didn't know what was sung and what was dialogue. Everything, I think, everything is sung except me. But I interact with the choral part. And I literally walked in on Saturday and I went, What, you sing it all? Well, it's an opera, of course they do.
When John came in to play Alan Sugar the first time, he sat down at the board table and we were all on the other side of the table and we all just sang full bore at him, you know, like you do as singers, that's what we do. He was totally blown away. It completely threw him. He'd never had 6 people sing at him full bore, and it really threw him for... Poor chap!
Ask not for whom the bell tolls. Just open the bloody door and let me in.
I videoed it on my phone, took it home and I showed my wife and went, there you go, that's what I've been doing today. She went like that. Said, you're out your depth. Fact.
For the many well-known guests who join us, like John Coleshaw or John Thompson, the task for them is to figure out how to deliver their lines when things are just set in musical time and musical space.
I used to be a DJ on the radio, and doing this is a bit like talking over the intro of music again to hit the lyrics. So I'm using old skills and things that I never thought I would need to use again.
So if somebody's singing a song, and then at the end of 2.5 minutes of singing, you do your line and you get it wrong, and your line is the cue for the next bit of singing, you feel like such a dick.
The fundamental problems with me as far as, trying to act when people are singing is feeling so plain and ordinary. I think people who are singing are on a slightly higher spiritual level than those just talking. So you feel a bit of a drudge while people are soaring close to the angels.
The penises! The penises made me laugh a lot. They were huge. I was in hog heaven. Oh my God, they were fantastic. Lee's penis was just astonishing. I just thought, my God, if only it ejaculated pure hot chocolate, I would be in heaven.
I think the test for me was when we were Children of the Stones, and we went to this quarry, and you got this giant 20-foot penis, and that looked amazing, and that could have been a real disaster. If that 20-foot cock had looked naff, that would be it. You know, the show would be over, really. Costume and makeup have been sensational, which is, again, I'm so old school. I love, good costume. Costume change, you can't beat it. And then someone like Eve, something like Question Time, I said, I want it to be a sense of a slightly weird 1950s feel about it, and he just gets it. It's the right mix between real and comic.
Lee, as the poor bloke, has got an axe through his head. He has an axe put through his head every morning and wanders around with dried blood on his face for about 8 hours a day.
I remain every day impressed by the team and the cast. I think the cast and the workload they've got through is astounding. That's 2.5 hours of music to learn, to record and to film over a 12-week period. One of the agents was telling me in 3 months that would be a normal rehearsal period for a new opera. And they've done it on location, in all sorts of weather and in all sorts of costume, which in the end I hope they've really enjoyed, because they've made it their own, and that's been wonderful to watch.
I've never worked on anything at all like this before ever in my life. The thing which is really nice about it is that it's the sort of marrying of lots and lots of different creative talent.
One has just marvelled at how wardrobe and makeup and the photography team have just got to it and just delivered this thing. For my very first experience in television, it's really quite stunning.
I'm looking forward to seeing John Thompson's Alan Sugar. I used to work with John on Spitting Image years ago, and I can just see him. I like doing Alan Sugar too, but I know that John will also do a marvellous Alan Sugar.
role I'm playing is the fictional character Melvin Bragg.
But he's got a voice that isn't quite sort of realistic in any kind of way, and that's